Hello, I'm Driven D&D, the Disabled DM, and welcome back to Power Up Gamers. Today, I'm doing a video one-on-one chat with a special guest, first time to the channel, Dungeon Girl Becky, the terror of dungeons and everything I believe. So, I'm very pleased to have her with me. I'm looking forward to our chat. So, say hello, Becky. Plug in your channel group.
Hi, I'm Becky Rose Dungeon Girl. I'm pleased to meet you in this community, Power Up Gamers, and my channel is dedicated to improving your game. So I do a lot of advice videos and inspiration videos, and the occasional live play too.
Awesome. One of the things that's caught my attention, just haven't seen you in hangouts, and that's part of the Rogue DMs channel, and watching a few of your videos, and you got a very down to earth, no nonsense, but at the same time you have fun with what you're doing. And so I've enjoyed that aspect a lot. So, since most of my viewers probably don't know who you are or really what you do, let's begin off with a question and about how you got involved with this hobby and role playing.
Okay, for me it goes back, count the decades. 25 years ago is when I first got into role playing, when a school friend of mine invited me along to this role playing club, and I took part, enjoyed it, and 2 years later was running the club. So it kind of, it became a big part of my life, and it always has been throughout my life. I've never stopped role playing. I had this when years ago. I used to live in this house in the country, and a few doors down from me were some friends, two brothers that I knew that they were similar age, so we'd play sometimes. One of them in particular used to blow me up a lot. Used to get lots of explosives and blow up garden gates as I was walking through them, things like that. Used to make gunpowder. And years later, I was working in the town just down the road from that village. So I decided to knock the door and see if they still lived there. And they actually did. They still lived there. And the older brother turned out to be into role playing, this one who used to blow me up. So he introduced me to his friends, and who role played actually just around the corner from where I lived then. So I've been with that group ever since. So I obviously these days have been quite a few different groups.
Yeah. That happens when you are involved with a hobby for so long. I myself have been playing over 30 years. It's now. I remember being like 8 years old when first edition came out. But I actually was involved with role playing even before that. My grandfather's full-blooded Native American, and God rest his soul, because he's passed on now. But back then, he used to tell stories, which is very big in our culture, and he would always ask the kids what they would do in that situation, or what they think the character in the story should do. So that's really how I got introduced to it, but just the storyteller in me loved it so much that I just naturally got drawn to role-playing, tabletop RPGs. The rest is kind of history.
Well, if your granddad had also invented the D20, he could have been the head of a multi-million-dollar industry
Yeah,
now.
yeah. Wouldn't that have been nice? Nice. So, oh, I'm gonna move into net a lit, tell you a little bit about some of my inspirations and kind of who they are. You probably know most of them, if not all of them, and then we'll kind of answer the question of who's kind of inspired you to start your channel, run your channel, and
I,
kind of keep you motivated.
to be honest, nobody really inspired me to start my channel except for myself. Um, I originally started it because I was a first edition player for many years. My friend actually, my Stuart Marshall, who the player I was talking about earlier, introduced me
Yeah,
to that group with Stuart in, and he was the editor in chief of Osric. So that's the first edition retro remake that kind of started the whole retro clone
yeah.
movement. And so obviously I played a lot of first edition, and some of the ways it was being played bothered me. So I put up a little video on when to roll the dice. It was my very first video on my channel. My first role playing video was Dungeon Master Mistakes. Stop rolling dice. And I put a few simple rules up of these are the situations when you roll dice, not every time somebody breathes. And that that kind of just got me interested. I thought, oh, what other people must be doing this on YouTube. So I started looking around, and I saw a few other channels, and I thought, hey, this is cool. There's people doing this on YouTube. That's fantastic. So I just thought I'm gonna do that. That looks like I love making films and TV and stuff. So I just thought, yeah, I'm gonna do that. Um, so yeah, that's it just it felt natural to me because I'd done a big video project before back in 06, 07, where I was running an MMO that I took an existing computer game and I turned it into an MMO. It was a motor racing simulator, and then I did this television cast series, and
That's cool.
yeah, it was hugely successful in its day. I mean, at the time, YouTube was a really small thing for us because you could only upload 100 megabyte videos at a maximum of 10 minutes, and I had to get my account especially extended to actually put our broadcasts on. But it was still limited to 100 megabytes, so the quality was terrible. So what we had to do was we had to get I think we had 4 servers in a data center to handle the downloads because they were half a gig at a time. Um, like to do the what we called the medium quality stream. The broadcast stream was many gigs, but the we got interest from TV channels and all sorts. It never quite made it to telly, but yeah, it's certainly something I was always really interested in. So when I saw people were doing this on YouTube, I was like, I'm gonna do this, and that's kind of what started it. I started doing an advice videos, and at first I didn't even want to appear on camera, so I used the miniatures and stuff that I
Yeah,
have because it's not that I'm camera shy. It's just that I didn't feel that my face would add anything. Um, I kind of wanted to keep it sort of focused on the content rather than me as a personality. But eventually, I got dragged out onto camera to do a video response video, and it went down positively. So I thought, okay, they can see more of my face now. They've had content. Now they can put up me.
awesome.
So that's kind of how it all really began. There wasn't really anything that kind of said, I'm loving what that person's doing. I want to do that. It was really just I love making video and film,
Yeah.
and role playing is my other love. So put the two together and have fun.
Uh,
What really changed it for me though was getting involved in online games. That's really where
oh
the
yeah.
Rogue DM comes in because Rogue dragged me into online gaming, and I've not actually done an online game without the Rogue DM in it, either as a player or as running it. Um, so yeah, so from that perspective, and because of that, I got more involved in the community and in the brigade and so forth, which wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the Rogue DM.
Awesome. Yeah, most of my viewers kind of know about 4 or 5 years ago, I moved from Oregon in USA to back to my original hometown. And I had a really good second edition in group that we played every week. And I left behind that to move to what we call the Bible Belt. It's kind of fundamental Christian beliefs, and stuff like role playing is kind of frowned on. So I went through a really hard time because I missed the hobby. And I happened to find Esper the Bird's YouTube channel. I started watching some of the channels he recommended, A Fistful of Dice, and of course, that watched the Provokers, and just got big fans of all of them, which is actually how I got introduced to Jen Annie, the Rogue DM, and you too, actually, is because of watching her guest appearance in the Provokers.
Yeah, I couldn't get on with the Provokers. I've tried watching it twice, and I just cannot watch the first episode through. So I've really struggled with it. I've actually never really properly watched it. I can't get on with it.
It can be hard to watch other people play.
I've watched plenty of live play games. I just can't get past their first episode.
Yeah.
It doesn't sit right with me.
Okay. But that's kind of how I got to meet everyone. And when I originally started the channel, it was because I have been part of the one-shot group and different communities for a couple years, and I had noticed kind of a trend that no one really addressed as people with the special needs being involved with role playing, and how that would affect like a GM and other players. So I started the channel with that in mind, and it just kind of grown from there.
Yeah, though you were saying like the Bible Belt role playing was frowned on. Is that really still a thing?
Yes,
wasn't that 1980s?
It is still going on. It's not quite as bad as back in the 80s, but it's still kind of one of those. Recently, I stepped out and I lived with them for a while, said they didn't want that spiritual crap in their house.
It just surprises me that that's still a thing. I mean, to be honest, I'm quite surprised they're even aware what role playing is. You know, I mean, it's only like what 4 or 5 decades old. So
yeah, and I think a large amount of the misbeliefs on that is people have no idea what role playing really is.
Yeah, I don't know. It comes down to self-education, and not really a case of like educate yourself on roleplay, but I mean just educate yourself, and then you discover these things as a consequence of that. And I think that can be missing in fundamentalist communities.
It was actually pretty awesome last night. I was over at my mother's for dinner, and I did a very short introduction to the microscope RPG system for her, and she seemed to enjoy it. She said that she could see where it would be beneficial, so it's kind of opened her eyes. So hopefully it will spread a little.
Yeah, provided you don't do any demon summoning plots.
Exactly.
You might want to leave Cthulhu behind.
Exactly, no Cthulhu for mom. And we did a simple, like, modern day setting about, and it was just a very short or simple thing about a dad losing his job and how it affected the family. And so it was interesting, not quite my particular flavor, but I wanted to introduce it in a positive light. So I went with what they were comfortable with. And that's really one of the things that any GM should do is play at the level or that your players are comfortable with. And talk to your players, get to know them. So, oh, tell us a little bit about your channel, or a little bit about the ideas for your videos, or maybe a little bit of your creative process with coming up with those ideas.
Okay, well, the the ideas kind of start. You never know when you're going to get an idea. So I keep a sort of a notepad on my phone, if you can see that at all. But this is a list of all my current video ideas. So um, each paragraph there is another idea that I just, whenever I think of it, just make a note, and then at some point in the next few months, those will become videos, and that list will have changed completely. So I'm kind of always about 10 episodes ahead. Sometimes it gets down a bit, and there was a point recently when I only had like one in there, and I was like, ooh. I need to play more games to get more ideas. A lot of the ideas kind of come from playing the game or running the games. Occasionally it's from watching somebody else, his live play, or just tropes. Sometimes a meme will spark one off. There was a discussion the other day it's about a month ago now, on Twitter, where I was joking with some people on Twitter about orcs and how players always just kill orcs on sight without respecting their culture. And I did this campaign game in my house, one of my live groups, where it was actually the group where we tried 5th edition for the first time, and I was using miniatures for the whole campaign, and every time I put an orc in, the players just killed it straight away, to the extent that I even tried putting an orc in a cage, so it was already a prisoner, and just so I could introduce this concept to my players and try and get them to get it, that these orcs have a culture, that they're just the other side. They're not necessarily evil. You've not tried talking to them. So I put them in a situation where they didn't need to kill the orc at all, and the players were just dismissing it out of hand, and like the orc verbally described them as the barbarians and uncultured and uncivilized and uneducated,
Yeah.
because of the way they were treating it, and they never quite got it, and in the end they just poked spears through the bars and killed it. So
Yeah, I find that it's quite interesting, because I've seen that mentality not just with orcs, but like goblins and other
yeah,
monster races. And I think a big part of it has actually been the fault of many GMs throughout the years. And that is in downplaying the culture and social side of those races.
a little bit, but it also goes back to the D&D alignment issue, I think, because like early D&D, and even to this day, D&D still has this alignment system of, if you're good, you can kill the evil ones and there's no consequences because they're evil. It's labeling, and the worst part of that is, of course, the monsters are color coded as well. Like, your good dragons from your bad dragons, just because all the colored ones are evil, all the chromatic ones are good. And that's kind of awkward looking back on it now, right? But it's where D&D started, this concept of, very Christian concept of, there's good in the world, there's evil in the world, these are how they're defined, and then go kill all the evil ones. And for me, that's very problematical. I very much dislike the alignment system.
Yeah.
But from that idea, it goes onto my phone. A month later, I just filmed that video over the weekend. It's all up on, ready to go on my channel, and it's launching Wednesday.
Awesome.
So that's the process.
Before I get into kind of how I do it, because I use something kind of similar to what you do, but I've actually removed pretty much alignment from my games. And I never ask a player what their alignment is. I just make it simple. If they do something in good, they be rewarded. If they do something bad, there's consequences. And that seems to work quite fine for most of what I do. So, we're talking a little bit about the creation of ideas and how we come up with stuff. A lot of my videos and concepts actually come from my viewers, or people will ask a question in one of the communities, and I write down basically a video response list. And sometimes I'll jot down little comments people say that spoke an idea for a one-shot, possibly a campaign, and then later on I go and flesh those out and make videos on them and go. I also do a lot of collaboration. If you watch my videos, there's very few on the channel that it's just me, unless it's a quick, like 5-minute video response. Almost everything else has a guest with me.
I think I'm very much the opposite to that. I've done a couple of collabs. I did a couple of animated sequences for AJ Pickett on his monster videos. So I did the Aboleth, and I can't remember if it was the Beholder or the Spectator. So at the end of his video, he sort of stuck this little bit I made on there. And obviously I've done quite a few with the Rogue DM as well.
Yeah.
But actually, the Rogue appearing, the cat's gone. The Rogue actually appearing on my channel outside of a live play is actually something that's very new. That's something that's only just happened. So that, yeah, I've not really done a lot of collabs because I mostly collaborate with my miniatures. So the problem is I love painting these things. You know, I have a whole. I'm just move the camera here. It's going to get a bit shaky, but you know, this is my painting bay, and
Oh, nice.
sort of behind me there, you can see my kind of craft shelf of over there. So I love making this stuff, but I very rarely play with it because I'm not over keen on miniatures play. I prefer, if I'm going to do it, I prefer gridless, but to be honest, I mostly favour theatre of the mind. So it's very rare for me to get miniatures out when I'm playing, especially like a midweek game when you're only playing for a few hours in a session. I'll do it more for the weekend games occasionally, but they're less often. So I figured, you know, I need a reason to use these damn things because I spend a small bloody fortune on them. So I use them in the videos. So really, that's kind of my collab partner. Is all this stuff I've painted.
Yeah, I know what you mean with the theater of the mind. I don't use very many props or miniatures, maps. Very occasionally, I'll show my players an image, or I might make a certain prop up just to really highlight a crucial moment in the campaign. But it's so rare that.
Yeah, props can be a really, really awesome thing. I remember actually there was this one campaign. I think we were playing Vampire, but I decided to the players basically signed this contract They wanted to read the contract, so I got them to do int rolls and whatever it was and stuff, and they all failed. So they ended up signing this contract, and then they went and did this whole mission thing. And it turned out that that contract in the small print actually granted this corporation media rights to recordings that they'd taken of the mission. So they turned it into this, because it was a sci-fi game, so I turned it into this, they turned the mission that they did into a holovid. And I actually, here's my love of film coming in again, I actually made the trailer by going through loads of sci-fi films, encoding it onto computer, and sort of, right, this Blade roughly represents that character, so I take some shots of Blade, the Doctor in Fifth Element who builds Lulu, going to take him for one of the characters, put all these clips together and actually made the trailer for this movie. And so at the end of the campaign, it's like, can we just switch your video recorder on, Stuart? And he's like, what? Yeah, the ending's on this tape. And everyone's like, I don't know. What do you mean? It's like, well, the ending of what happens next is on this tape. It just totally baffled the players. And of course, we get the video recorder, because this is back in the days of VHS. I put this tape in, and then they kind of see their character, and they're all just absolutely blown away by this. And it's like, oh yeah, that totally is my character. And everything else. And it's an epic finale to a game. So props can be really, really amazing things, but I don't think miniatures really fill that category, because miniatures, I don't think they're really props. They're more of a game aid. They're this kind of thing, the spell cards. And the thing is, the part of the game that they're a game aid for is tactical combat. And I always kind of, there's very much two schools of thought in role-playing, or two camps. You've got the people who love the tactical combat and the people who love the storytelling. And the thing is, they don't actually necessarily mesh that well. And I think one of the weaknesses we have as a community is we don't kind of say, like on our games, right, this is a story game, this is a combat game. These kind of two very different philosophies toward role-playing, the kind of the war game mentality and the read a book mentality.
It definitely is. Pretty much everyone who's been in a session of mine knows I'm very much into the storytelling and the role-playing, very light on combat. We do have them, but when it happens, it's an essential part of the story. Not just like in first and second edition, you'd have random encounters that just kind of made no sense.
Yeah, the random encounters there's a way to do them right and things, and there's a way not to do it. I did an encounter recently that I don't know if I should classify. Maybe it was a random encounter. It was definitely planned. It was a mini boss fight, but it wasn't the quest line the players were on. They were passing through a swamp. So let's make this swamp dangerous. I threw in a Froghemoth. And so it was like this big epic fight in the middle of this swamp. But I threw it in like straight to the boss level fight because I didn't want to do a gazillion minor encounters with boglins and lizard men and all that kind of stuff.
I did something similar in one of my campaigns where they were going through a swamp, and I had actually put in two encounters. The first was a pit of stone-owned giants on hills that were brothers. And they basically owned the swamp. So to get through, you had to negotiate with them. And something had been breaking the fishing nets that they would cast down into the swamp and get food. So other players had to fix the nets. Then they moved on, and they encountered basically a hybrid crocodile type creature that was biting through the nets. And they had to slay it or run. Thankfully, they chose to run. And then they moved on with the campaign, which took them out of the swamp.
So there's very much, I think, a way to do the random encounter per se. That's more of a, if you like, a location encounter more than it is a random encounter.
Exactly.
Mm.
A location, and they usually have to be relevant to the plot in some way. A,
I don't know if it's
a,
absolutely necessary to be relevant to the plot. They
yeah,
need to be relevant to the world.
it's not necessarily a a have to, but like I made the Stonehill Giants relevant to the plot because the only way to get to where the party needed to go was to go through this swamp.
Mm. Yeah, and I suppose you could argue my Froggermoth might be the same, but the thing is, I don't recall foreshadowing the Froggermoth at all. I may have done it in the encounter before it, but the thing is, they were always going to have that fight. It wasn't something that was sort of rolled on a table. It's like, oh, you're dead now. You got a Froggermoth. Ah. No,
Exactly.
that's just no.
Exactly. Okay. And a lot of times I don't even uh, consult the monster manual other than to get AC and hit points. Or it's because the way I do encounters is 90% of the time you're not meant to fight. You're meant to either be diplomatic, run. So for me, the stats don't really matter as much.
Yeah, I'm quite happy to put monsters in that are way too powerful for the party, and if they fight them, they die, and I've no problem with that. It teaches the player a
Yeah,
valuable lesson that it's not always right to fight.
yeah, I've done that. I've had level 2 characters walk into a dragon's cave and fight a dragon.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like there are groups I have that kind of expect the encounters to be balanced to the players, and like if you put an encounter in that's too hard for the players, well, then you're doing it wrong. But quite often, I will actually do that to that group because they're not necessarily meant to go in every encounter sword first. Of course, every time they do. That
Oh, of
particular group.
course.
So, yeah, that is. But what one day I hope that the group I'm thinking of will be slightly less murder hobo, but I'll wear them down. But of course, what tends to happen is rather than the group evolving and stuff in the play, of course, what tends to happen is somebody goes, well, I've got an idea for a campaign now. Let's do this.
Yeah.
Grr.
So Victor saying they basically thinks random encounters like what we're talking about slow down the game, and it
Oh,
depends
they do.
if
A
you're doing a
friend of mine,
campaign, a
a friend
one
of mine
shot.
ran this campaign from a module. He'd actually doing a module campaign, and he was going to run it exactly to the book. So we started this campaign, and this was a weekend a session that we were doing. So these were 6 to 8 hour sessions with pizza in between, and it was the fourth session when it was just like if we'd had fight in the morning, fight in the afternoon, fight in the morning, fight in the afternoon, all the time. And in the end, I said to him, "Look, could we just cut the random encounters? I'm sick of random encounters because this is like the fourth time we've met in a row, and we still haven't had any plot." And he says, "Oh, you have? Some of those encounters were scripted." And I was like, "You're shitting me. You mean in amongst those dozens of random encounters we've fought through were two plot encounters, and they were just combats? This is it. This campaign has to end right now." It's like, put that module book away, burn it.
Yeah, I never really liked modules or they're great for inspiration and getting ideas, but I don't like running them. The only one I've actually ran was back 30 some odd years ago when I first started playing and DMing. I started the Order of the Empty Cup campaign with the Keep of the Borderlands module. And by the time we got done with the first session, I had thrown other stuff in and just made it my own. And 30 years later, I have yet to find a group to actually complete that campaign.
I've never read a module, ever. Unless it came in a core rulebook, I didn't read it.
Yeah. I've read several. I like taking ideas for a character or maybe a plot arc from them, and then making it my own thing. But outside of that, I just don't use modules. To me, they're not as much fun. They really restrict what the GM can do.
I couldn't say I've never read one.
Yeah.
I've played through a few where the GM has decided to run one, but I'm very much of the view that if the GM had said that he was running this game from the module, I wouldn't have bloody played it, because I've done a few now and I know what they're like and I don't want to play those games. And yeah, actually, I had one the other day. I kind of had foot and mouth syndrome on the OST the other day, and I used an example of a particular GM's a couple of decisions this particular GM had made as an example of what not to do in this situation. Unknowingly, that particular friend was in the OSG as well and saw it and commented. But in that conversation, it turned out, once I got my foot out my mouth, it turned out that that particular decision, if you like, had turned out to be from a module. And I was like, you were running it from a module? Dude, seriously, you'd have said we'd have played something else. Because that's the shit that happens in a module.
Yeah. That's one thing I would like to see with interest as posts and events is there's a lot of different settings and people running different systems. But one of the things I've noticed is every now and then there's a module pop up. And unless you know the names of the modules, you wouldn't know. So I would like to see that included somewhere on the interest posts and the events.
I get why they exist. I mean, some GMs don't have that storytelling ability to create a world. The problem is, those probably aren't the best people to be running the games. I don't. That kind of sounds like horrible and bitchy and stuff, and I probably just put my foot in the mouth again. But you know, if you're going to be a GM, you've got to weave together a story, and that means storytelling.
Yeah.
And if you don't have stories in you, maybe you should be a player, not a GM. Just a theory.
Yeah,
I don't know how many subs I just lost with that statement.
I actually agree a lot with it. However, with that being said, there's also something to be said for a certain style of GMs that I've seen kind of developing recently, and I've even been doing it a lot, and that's let the GMs who let the players tell you their story, let the players describe what they see, how they interact, and like me, I'll say something, you see a canine type creature in front of you, and I'll let one player describe what it looks like. I'll let another one describe the sounds it's making. And that's just been really interesting. And that's where I think the kind of GMs we're discussing should kind of go in the direction as they're learning to make stories. Because like you said, not all of us are born with that creative spark in us.
Yeah, I mean that's I know the style of play you mean, and I'm all for encouraging players to be more descriptive and to embellish their descriptions. Don't just metagame in the sense of I make a stealth roll and I move to this point here. You know, that very wargamer mentality of right, I'm going to make the stealth roll first. That means I'm invisible and can do everything. You know, that mentality. I I dislike playing with that because I find it very uninspiring to play with those people. I think they actually are almost a detraction from the game. Don't get me wrong, I do play in groups with players like who
Yeah,
do that, and I continue to do so because they're friends, and friendship always for me comes ahead of the role playing. But
exactly.
but to me, that style of role playing is actually something of a deterrent from the ideal game. It detracts from what would be the perfect game if I could be in one, and the that I definitely would want to encourage more players to be more descriptive, and um,
Oh,
so
definitely.
that, I see that's there. But then at the same time, you've got to make sure as a GM that you do have your story and you know what things are important to that plot. Players, in my view, should be absolutely free to fill in incidental details, the things that aren't that important to the plot.
Exactly.
But I've had GMs turn around to me and as a player and sort of ask me like, right, so what do you think should happen now? And that's it's kind of like, well, don't you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
One way I kind of do it is if I know like the big picture of what's going on, and what's coming up. Sometimes before a session, I'll get hold of the players and ask a question on how does your character feel about what they've been dealing with, and then I wait for the players to respond, and usually that tells me, okay, next session, and I want to do this with them.
yeah, I mean, you've always got to keep that open dialogue. Which is why I'm aware, like some of what I'm saying might sort of sound
Yeah,
like too. What's she saying? Seriously, that's just so wrong. I have to be careful I don't stand up because I did some. I was washing the pots and pans before I came on camera, and it now looks like I've wet myself.
yeah.
I assure you, I haven't wet myself for at least 4 hours. No, but of course, there's now people watching it. We know you have a dishwasher, Becky. You're clearly lying. Pans, people. My dishwasher's small. No, the but what I think it's really there's with the whole allowing the players to describe. For me, it's not so much allowing the players to describe. They absolutely should describe, but at the same time, the GM should be clear as to what the overall story is. They should be clear as to. It depends on the type
Exactly.
of campaign. There's more than one type of campaign, but the GM should know what's driving the action and driving the overall story.
Exactly.
The details that happen underneath that are always open to agreement and
So,
discussion.
one thing I like, and we'll kind of go into kind of the question of what makes a perfect session, and but I'll tell you a little story first. Back when I did Adventure League, for a very short time, because I didn't like the way it was set up, I had a session, and I had introduced the party and gave them a mission to go talk to a gem merchant whose brother had been kidnapped. That's all I basically said the entire session. And I sat there. They didn't roll a single dice the entire session. I just listened as the players played out maybe a 2.5 session, half-hour session on interrogating the merchant, then going back to the end, deciding what they were going to do. Oh, and the characters getting to know each other and a little bit about their backstories, which was awesome. And for me, that was like a perfect session because I got the chance as a GM to do something GMs don't normally get to do is sit back and observe their own sessions, unless it's something that's recorded and we can go back and watch it later. But it's totally different watching it as it's happening.
Yeah, I'm a big believer actually in recording your sessions. I even record some of my live play sessions to watch them back, and just so I know where I've made mistakes and can improve, because you don't notice when you're in the action necessarily everything you can see on a replay, which is why even my Saturday games I've sort of recorded these 8-hour streams for my own viewing with multiple camera angles and all sorts, just so I can see, okay, what am I doing wrong? And it's part of this whole self-improvement drive. But I take things to the extreme. I'm not saying everybody should do that, but it's definitely beneficial to watch yourself GM. But
That's
for me,
actually what got me involved with recording the live gameplays. Was originally they were just for me. And I've always asked my players after like every session what the highlight of the session was and what do they think I could improve on. I've done that for 25 years now or so.
Of course, the problem with that is tactful responses.
Yeah. I get a lot of I don't know, a lot of nothing. I thought it was perfect. It's every now and then I get something that I can really use. So what's your idea of like a perfect session, perfect group?
Well, I think for my perfect group would definitely be a storytelling group over a tactical group. It's not to say I don't like tactical play. I do enjoy it. I am quite good at strategy stuff, but I prefer the storytelling side. I think most of the great sessions, when you look back and you think of all the great sessions you've ever had, I think you'll find the majority of them probably have less than half a dozen dice rolls. As much as we all love dice, and I have every dice from D2 to D. Oh, I don't have a D120. I must rectify that. But the shipping costs more than the dice. But dice rolls actually, in many ways, take away from the game. If you're really role playing, you probably forget to ask for them, and you just go with it. And that's all the great sessions, the best ones. They all have that where the magic has happened, and you're not stopping for the dice.
Exactly.
But I think for the perfect session, has to have pizza with barbecue sauce, pepperoni, bit of pineapple, some jalapenos, and maybe some beef. And when you're having pizza, you've got to have Coca-Cola. I don't drink it normally, but with pizza, it's the perfect drink. So it has to have that in it.
Awesome. I prefer Pepsi myself, but the pizza sounds awesome.
Pepsi, Coke, they're kind of the same thing when you got the pizza, because you got you're half tasting pizza, but it's the perfect drink to wash a pizza down with, and I don't think it really matters what brand you've got.
Hey. And of course, you want a good group that are friends, that get along great with each other.
Well, I don't know if that's absolutely necessary. I mean, if go back to the Clockwork Opera, which is a game that the Rogue DM ran that I played in, we all, as players, we all got along with each other, but our characters definitely didn't, and that conflict definitely adds attention.
And that's what I'm talking about, player-wise.
I think if you're role playing, it doesn't matter if you don't like someone at the table. It really doesn't matter if you're in character. If the sessions got you caught up, the stories got you caught up. It doesn't matter what you think of them, as long as that magic happens.
Yeah, it can really vary depending on who's there and if you're really in tune with the session. And I definitely find a quiet environment critical for me. I very much don't like game shops. Ops. I probably wouldn't like live conventions because of the noise.
It depends on the convention. Like some of the best games I've ever played have been at conventions. I think probably the best game I ever played was a convention game. It was by a first-time GM, and it was the most ridiculous
Oh,
premise. To be honest, I would never have signed up for this game if every other game wasn't full. It was you are playing somebody who's on an office team building exercise, and like one day it's a team building exercise at a corporation, and I was playing the fat guy from IT. Right? I would never have chosen to play this game. It turned out to be, hand on heart, the best game I've ever played. It was at a convention. But what you generally find with conventions is, certainly the better ones, is you'll have a room with a small number of tables in, maybe 3 tables. I've seen rooms set up with like 5 tables, and they are too loud. But up to about 3 tables, it's generally okay. That particular one was the only table in that room because that table had been set up in a hallway. Um,
yeah.
but
I,
I know, like,
I
when you go
could
to Dragon Meet,
probably
it's too
handle
busy.
like a second table in the room, but more than that would probably be too much for me.
I know when the Rogue DM ran the Cthulhu by Gaslight campaign at UK Games, I was in them, and there were 3 groups in, or 3 tables playing in that room, and I didn't even notice the other tables. It was just absolutely engrossed in that adventure. It was another one of the sort of great convention games I've been in. There's been some diabolical ones as well, but there's been some other great ones. I think as 3 tables is probably the limit in a room.
Okay.
Because I know
Awesome.
Dragon Meat, I just couldn't imagine getting a good game in there where they got like 20 odd tables in one room, and
Yeah.
you walk through it and it's like you're in a stadium.
I Most of my experience has been like a game shop where they have a huge back room with like 10 tables, and you have people playing Magic the Gathering, you have people playing Warhammer, people playing D&D, and it's just awful because everyone's loud, having a good time, and it just
Yeah,
doesn't
it's
work
too
for
much.
me.
It's too much. It
Um,
definitely.
Victor has an interesting comment uh, with he thinks a perfect session is when you're playing and it feels like 10 minutes and you look at the clock and 6 hours have passed.
Sounds like great sex to
Uh,
me.
I don't know what it is with a hobby, but I've caught that so many times where it feels like we just sat down and I look up at the clock and oh my goodness, 4 hours have passed.
But that's true of all things, though. Like a good day at work
Yeah,
is when it's home time and you think it's 2 o'clock or something. And if you get engrossed, if the session captivates you, then it's great. And time does seem to fly. I think that's more consequence rather than cause.
yeah, it's definitely a consequence of just having a great session. And but I find it interesting that things kind of work that way when you're having fun and you like what you're doing, you're really involved with it. You don't notice time. But the reverse is also true. If you're not having fun, you're not really engrossed in it, a session can be forever.
Yeah, because you're checking your watch or something, waiting for it to end. That's why I don't wear a watch. Never. I do not wear watches. 2 reasons. Firstly, like if I'm bored and I'm waiting for the time to end, even if it's not role playing, even if it's just like a day at work or something, um, I just find that so demotivating. But also, if I'm late for something, like the clock in my car, I have it deliberately set to the wrong time, and like every couple of weeks I go in it and I just randomly change the time again, so I can never work it out.
Uh,
Because if I'm late for something, I don't want to know. It just makes me stressed. I can't change it.
yeah. I always set my clocks like 10 minutes early. So I'm almost always on time for stuff. Uh, so I think we've had a pretty good little chat. Is there anything you would like to tell the viewers about yourself, what you do?
Well, my channel, as I said before, it's dedicated to improving a game. I've only been going about a year and a half, but it seems to have done quite well. I've just about to hit 1,400 subscribers, so I might have lost a few by saying those certain people shouldn't GM today, but um, yeah, it's definitely got a sense of humor to it. Some of the videos are just funny, and some obviously are a bit more serious. Just depends on my mood when I made it. And yeah, please come and check it out. See if it's for you, because I do work genuinely hard on trying to make good content for my channel. I don't do the whole. Well, I've occasionally done it, but I don't really do that whole sit in front of the camera and talk at the camera thing. Just the face and the shoulders type thing. I really do try to work hard on the videography on my channel and to make the content interesting, engaging, and to hopefully take away some lesson about RPGs from it. And for me, it's been a great platform to both improve my own game, and as I'm improving, to share how I've improved. But it's very much not a blog style channel that so many channels on YouTube seem to be.
Yeah,
Not to take away from the people who do that, but there's a lot of it, and I'm very much niched in differently to that with my channel.
yeah,
And
you definitely are really unique with some of the videos you do. Oh, and I love watching them. It's just time is always an issue. Oh, and
not if you watch my videos before everyone else's. Like if you watch mine
yeah,
before AbTab and the Provokers, then there's loads of time.
exactly. Well, my thing is, I get like 1 day a week to watch videos, and I have 100+ channels, and it's like every one of them usually comes out with at least one video a week. So it's like, okay, this video, okay, I'm gonna be discussing this topic this next week. I need to watch that one.
I do one of the things I'm focusing on now is video length. I'm trying to keep my videos to around 6 minutes or so, depending on what I'm doing exactly. I can never quite tell how much video I record, but definitely like the one that's coming out this Wednesday, the Becky Ruins Killing Orcs. That is, I think it started off at 10 minutes when I got it into the edit suite. By the time I'd left it, it was 6 minutes, and I cut out a load of jokes. Loads of funny stuff got removed because pacing, getting it the right stuff at the right times. So so it really is about sort of trying to entertain and deliver in a concise package that's really enjoyable to watch.
Yeah.
That's what I'm focusing on now, and really
And
trying to deliver that.
Yeah, that's definitely something I need to work on as well. How I'm not big with editing. And my main thing's creative content, putting it out there. But hopefully, one of these days, as I learn a bit more with the editing kind of things, I can improve that kind of thing. Because I definitely think it makes for a lot better videos that people enjoy watching rather than people just sitting and talking.
It's a lot more work though. Like to do a hangout stream, and I think this is why there's so many channels like this that just do the hangout stream. If you want to do a 10-minute video in a Google Hangout, it takes you 10 minutes. For me to put 10 minutes of video footage up takes about 6 hours.
Yeah. I know what you mean, and I do a lot of transcribing videos for closed captioning for various channels, also including mine, which I'm way behind on. But to do a 30-minute video transcription takes me 3 hours.
Oh yeah, I used to do a lot of closed captions in the early days of my channel. I would close caption my videos, and I kind of stopped doing it when I did a few videos that were like an hour or so long, and I kind of asked because at the time my channel was very small, and I'm like, I don't think anybody's reading these captions, and it maybe is something I perhaps ought to revisit now. But like the goal of my channel was always to get 5,000 subscribers, so I could go to YouTube and use their facilities because I just love film and TV stuff. I really wanted to go to YouTube. They've just raised it to 10,000, so
Uh,
I hadn't even got to 5. So yeah, my goal now is 10,000 subscribers, and yeah.
okay,
I need a D&D 6th edition to bring a load of new players in.
Victor's asking if you could do an outtake video for the one coming up Wednesday because he wants to hear those jokes.
I think that might be tricky because without the right context and the right framing,
Yeah.
then things aren't always funny and stuff. Like it's so hard when you make a video to know if it's actually funny or not. And oftentimes when I put a video out, even if it's not a funny one, no matter what, actually every time I put a video out, if I'm honest, I spend the night looking at those first replies, just hitting refresh on all the different channels just to see if this video has hit the mark or not. And like if it hasn't, I go to bed all frustrated and I'm miserable next day at work. And if it has, then I'm kind of happy and I sleep well because you never really know. And like the Becky Ruins Killing Orcs video that's coming out Wednesday, this is meant to be funny. And I know I showed it to you earlier.
Funny.
Which is good to know, and Rogue saw it too and thought it was funny. So I'm hoping that's good. But of course, I'm still nervous about. I'm always nervous before I release a video. I really do because I care about the content I'm putting out and that it's good content. Because
I'm always nervous before a live stream because I do all my videos live streaming. And it's not so much I'm worried about content and or even people viewing it. I'm more worried on stuff like, will people understand and what I'm saying because of my speech impediment? Will we have tech issues? And just all those things that can really stop up a video from being put out.
yeah, tech issues happen almost every time when you go live.
Yes,
There's always something goes wrong, and you can't get away from that. It's just that's the nature of life. There's so many different interdependent stuff. I mean, I've got my my XSplit software up here, which is doing the live chat on, and the reason I do that is because I know that having the live chat on the camera means that people engage more on the live chat, and then that helps the video statistics, which means more people view it as a consequence.
That's so awesome because, like, for me, if I know we have viewers, I pop out the YouTube chat. Like, I have it pulled up on the side, and it covers part of my screen.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I have multiple screens, but I can sort of show you here what I'm using. So this is one of my screens. This is that's the other. So as we can see on this screen over here, whoa, that kind of went a bit freaky, didn't it? But I have the pop out chat there. But to be honest, I actually find it easier to read on the XSplit screen.
Yeah, it's definitely easier to read on the XSplit screen.
Yeah, but I oftentimes actually have that quite small because I'm like if I'm running a game or something, I'll have all my notes up instead. Here I don't actually need it so much, so I've just got the XSplit up because it's an easy way to read the chat.
Victor says it's not an online RPG if it's not a tech issue.
It's true. It's definitely true.
That's so true.
Yeah. That's just the nature of doing things live. But if you don't do it live, something goes wrong anyway. It's just that you can deal with it in your stride and without the panic. Um, the amount of times I've had like
It's
battery going
funny.
flat, the light changing, I still got um, scabs on my feet when I was helping the Rogue DM film the Rogue Explores Swamps, and I got bitten by horseflies around
Oh
my
no.
feet. And something always goes wrong. Um, Becky ruins the fourth wall.
In, in fact, speaking of the Rogue DM, she just joined us.
I so and yes, yes, that's just totally distracted me and lost my flow because, of course, I fancy the Rogue DM so much that just the
Yeah,
mere presence has just thrown me. I've lost all
she's
my composure. My hair's a mess.
she's an awesome person. And she definitely helped me a lot with learning how to do the live stream.
Just
But
checking how I'm looking now. I'm not at my best now. I've been at this a while. I still got the splashes from the washing up earlier. You know,
uh,
actually, how's that doing? That's not so bad. It feels clammy though.
but yeah, we've just been having a good time getting into Dungeon Girl Becky and talking about different things. It's been pretty awesome. Um, I definitely appreciate her coming on. It's quite nice for me because I've never really gotten the chance to talk with you, other than maybe a real brief comment back when the Rogue DM did the review of the D&D movie.
Oh,
I forget the name of it, but I was in the chat.
yeah, Dudes and Dragons or something.
Yeah,
I was very drunk. I'm afraid I don't remember a thing.
yeah. I wasn't able to stay for a lot of it, but
I got
I,
wasted.
yes, I saw because I've been back and rewatched it.
Yeah, I was a mess.
But
Oops.
yeah, so I've never really had the chance to sit and talk with you. I've never gamed with you, had you in a session. It would be awesome to do also sometime, maybe do another one shot with it, the Rogue DM.
Yeah, I'm up for that. It's definitely been fun tonight, and I mean, oh, that's just reminded me. The Rogue DM is doing another celebration video soon as well. Oh,
Yes,
just put it in
Caldale
the
of
chat. Yeah, yeah.
Cthulhu.
And I'm gonna get
I'm
drunk again.
I'm looking forward to that one. I've always liked the Cthulhu setting. It just something about it. I've only seen like one movie on it, but like one book, but I really enjoyed it. So looking forward to that. So I think we able to bid the audience it's a farewell here in a second and call it a day. I know
Good.
it's
It's been fun.
probably getting a little bit late for you.
I'm good right now, but it's only 8:45, so no, it's not too bad right now. I've just thanks, Jenny. Okay, I will. Yes. Well, in fairness, I didn't have a choice about what to drink last time. It was what was
Yeah.
in the house. Uh, I will make preparations for next time. I had the gin, I didn't have the mixer. It had been drunk by guests. That's what I'm blaming it on. But um, yeah, it's been good. It's been great. It's actually the first time I've been interviewed as Dungeon Girl ever. So that's been quite cool.
Cool.
Thank you. I feel like it's my
Oh,
big break. I've arrived.
you're most welcome. It's been a pleasure. I definitely am looking forward to doing more interviews with different people of the community. And actually, what sparked it off was every now and then I do a DM's panel open forum, and we were to do one, and Michael Booker had signed up to do it as the special guest. And something came up to where he couldn't do it. So I was like, well, I really want a chance to get to talk with you and kind of get your feedback on some of these questions. Let's do a one-on-one video. And we just had like an hour-long chat, and it was just so much of a blast that I was like, okay, I went on about my stuff, and then like last week, I was like, hey, Jenny, to the Rogue DM, and you haven't guest on our channel for a while. Why don't you come on? We'll do a one-on-one chat. And we just had a blast. And so I'm like, okay, let's get some people I haven't had a chance to really hang out with. So, or I contact you.
Michael's great. I met Michael once in a hangout, and I did mercilessly tease him. And I was kind of worried afterwards about how that went down, but he added me as a friend on Facebook, so it must have been okay.
Yeah, he's really laid back and easy to joke with, so it's really awesome.
Yeah, see, I got him laughing. I just wasn't sure if it was nervous laughter.
Exactly. But yeah, every one of these I've done, I've enjoyed tremendously, so I'm definitely looking forward to expanding them. It might be one of those like monthly or twice a month kind of videos that I do.
Yeah, do it. It's a great way to grow your channel because, like, you're obviously before I appeared here, I promoted it to my viewers, and so there's that, and then the coverage. Yeah, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. Keep it up. Keep it up. It's a good thing.
Exactly. So with that being said, we've had a blast. I hope our viewers have had fun. And until next time, may the dice always roll in your favor.